We're live. Woo, woo, woo. Heyo, heyo, heyo.
Salutations.
Welcome to another edition of the Interest. Oh, who is fighting?
Oh,
He's okay. He's in the bathroom and they're fighting to get in the bathroom with him. Anyway,
okay.
So your cat's fighting. Hi. I'm streaming. Goodbye. Anyway, well, that was an introduction. Hi, we're here for the Interstellar Book Club, and I have a special guest today. You want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. My name is Nkechi, pronouns they, she. My channel name is Library of Wonder. Let's see. Always know about me is that I'm always bad at introductions. I'm like, wait, what do I say about myself? Right, my name, pronouns, channel name. Oh, I read fantasy, sci-fi, horror. Like I read speculative fiction, generally speaking. Getting more into romance, literary fiction. I don't know. I'm starting to branch out as far as genres. I just read more fiction than nonfiction. So there's that. But I'm trying to get into nonfiction. Oh, I'm also a college student. I actually will be starting school literally tomorrow. So I'm like,
that's crazy.
College.
It's so exciting. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous though, but you know what? It's gonna be fine. I'm just like, you know what? It's gonna be fine. I've been to college. It was rough, but I've been to college. I'm gonna come back to it. So you know. Yes. And let's see, what else? Is there anything else? Yeah, I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. There's book stuff outside of books. I have Letterboxd. If any of y'all are interested, like my movie reviews. They're not like super in depth, but like I watch movies too. I watch a lot of movies, actually.
I've seen them on your channel.
Yeah. I've been recently talking about the movies and TV shows I've been watching because I'm like, look, I watch a lot.
Yeah. Also linked below. So if you're not already following Ketchy, go ahead and do that. Come back, Yep.
Yes. Okay, I think that's it for my introduction, I think.
Cool. All right. Well, we are here today to review Wild Seed and Mind of My Mind, both in the Patternist series by Octavia Butler. Chronologically, this is book 1 and book 2. So that's why we read them in the order we read them, even though that's not the publishing order, but in timeline of universe. That's what this is. So we're going to be talking about these first two, talking about our thoughts. We're here for an hour. We got a lot of things to say. And, if you want to join us to read more sci-fi, again, this Discord link below, all that jazz. We do this every month and stuff. So come and hang out. But yeah, so also in case anyone's not staying, what we're reading next month, or reading for January rather, because this was our November and December.
Yeah.
Right. For January, members have elected to read There Is No Anti-Mimetic Division. It's like so shiny for my library. It's crazy. And it's like silver font too. By QNTM, and it's supposed to be creepypasta. So there's that. Okay. Hi, Rouge. Hi. Okay. I'm going to try to give a brief summary of what these two books are about. Feel free to add on to anything I say. Kitties, if y'all don't, I'm going to hug one of you. And you're going to be my next special guest. I'm just going to grab them. They keep running around. Okay, so Wild Seed starts with Anyanwu, who is a wild seed. It's like this a deity, immortal. Is that the right way to describe it?
I kind of describe her as like a very wild variant of a bigger parasitic entity, Doro's descendant.
Yes.
And she's like far, far removed, but like very, very powerful.
Yes. And she lives, it starts off in like the 1700s, and she is in her home country. I don't know if it specifically states where in West Africa she was, but we just know she's in West Africa.
I will say that it's more akin to modern day Nigeria based on the name itself, because it's very much Igbo, which also I forgot. I'm also Nigerian American, specifically Igbo. So like to me, I'm like, yeah, this sounds like modern day Nigeria. But at the time, that wasn't what it was called. So.
Makes sense. Yeah. So she's living there, and then Doro finds her because he's drawn to her because of they're both from this entity and they have these like wavelength frequencies that are kind of he's drawn to her. And so, oh, Shannon's here. Hey, Shannon. He convinces her to come with him to the new colonies and also he's part of the slave trade. So we're going to talk a lot about that. And he brings her into his breeding program that he's created because he's trying to build the perfect and something, which we'll get into.
Right.
Yeah. So that all goes down. And then book 2 is set in the 20th century, long time later, and what came of his plans from here. Does that sound right?
I think that's about right.
Okay, cool. So maybe let's start with ratings. So you want to tell us what you rated each of these and general thoughts?
Okay, let's see. For Wild Seed, I think my initial reaction was to give it a 4.75, but I think I sobered it to about a 4.5.
Okay.
Really enjoy. I mean, it's hard to say enjoy because it is a very dark story. There's a lot of dark content, heavy content. So this is not like a fun, easy space opera vibe. Like, no, this is very much at least the first book is very much given historical, but definitely sci-fi. Which is, I always find it interesting when I think of sci-fi, I think futuristic, but this is thinking about the future, but we're set in a historical setting. And it's just very interesting to me to see how Butler wrote Doro and Anyanwu's characters. So I found Wild Seed to be the most fascinating. And it is also interesting to me how it is the second to last book published within the series. But then Mind in My Mind, which actually, even though chronologically is the second book, it's also published as the second book in the series. So I think this is the most like, I guess, more clear set piece into this series. Following one of Anyanwu's descendants in Mind of My Mind, who is a telepathic, which Anyanwu, if you do not know, Anyanwu is a healer. So it was just nice to see how we have a descendant that's not much of a healer, more on the telepathy side, getting more Doro, if anything, which also makes sense based on the descendant's character. And I rated the sequel, I think, about 4.25 stars. So it's not that much of a drop in between the books, but to me, my experience was a drop because despite, I mean, you have the books physically, right? So like you can notice that how they're like similar in length, but like Wild Seed is a little bit longer, especially via audio than Mind of My Mind. So it definitely felt like we're missing some things, at least to me, pacing wise. So yeah, I think cohesively as a series, there's a vision here. I'm still piecing together what exactly Butler's trying to say with this series, but I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah, awesome. I feel very similarly, and I do want to give a caveat with my Mind of My Mind rating. So I gave Wild Seed 5 stars, and I feel the exact, like, I don't want to say I enjoyed it because that doesn't feel accurate. It's like, it was so heavy and dark and sad that I was like, I'm gripped from literally page 1. I was like, I need to know more about these characters and what their intentions are and where they're going. So like, I gave it 5 stars because of how gripped I was. And book 2, I gave 2 stars, but my caveat is not because I thought it was bad. It's more of my experience with the subject matter and how it put me in such a slump because of how dark it was. And so it's more of like how I felt about it at the time of reading it. Not that I don't want to keep reading the series, because I do, but I was like, I can't do this month back to back, month to month. I need a break.
Yeah.
Like, I was just so sad. So I say 2 stars also because there are certain things that, like, I think in book 2, I think there's similar themes, which we'll get into, like incest and humanity and, you know, treatment of peoples and like all of these things. But I feel like for me, Mind of My Mind was missing something to kind of pull it all together in a way that Wild Seed did better for me, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, I think, especially since publication wise, Wild Seed came out after Mind of My Mind. So it's like, I feel like Wild Seed was just a little bit more clear with his vision, with what it's trying to say, while Mind of My Mind was just building off of basically the fourth book of the series, Pattern Master, because that was the first book published. I don't know. I'm still baffled actually with how this series has been published versus the actual chronological order.
I wrote it down because I was confused too. And I was so okay, so technically the first published, like you said, was Pattern Master. That was in 1976. And then Mind of My Mind was published second, which was 1977. Survivor was third at 1978. Wild Seed was fourth at 1980. And then Clay's Arc was fifth at 1984. But the chronological in-universe order of these books is Wild Seed, Mind of My Mind, Clay's Arc, Survivor, and then Pattern Master.
Right. And also notes on Survivor, it is the one book that I think is discontinued from the series because Butler did not like the book. So they didn't print more copies. So if you do end up finding Survivor, I mean, like, kudos to you, because that is hard to find.
I didn't know that, but that actually answers a question that I had because I was Googling it and I was getting different answers as to like, is this 4 books? Is it 5 books? What is it? But that answers my question.
Yeah, so really it's, I guess, a quartet as far as availability to the public, but there are, I think, copies of Survivor out there, but you would like really dig, and I think it's expensive if you were to purchase your own copy, but I think there is a way to get Survivor, but it's just so difficult. I guess, I mean, I don't know why Butler didn't like it, even though she wrote it, but like, I don't know. I've never read Survivor.
So she like ratified her own series. Be like, don't read this one. This one's not it. Okay, cool. So I guess we'll start talking about Wild Seed first because that's the one that we read first, and that's in the store chronologically. Is there anything particularly you want to start talking about?
Let's probably start with the characters because I think Wild Seed, and actually I think this entire series, well, I won't say start off, but like as far as chronologically, at least I feel like as readers, we were more connected with the characters than what was going on plot-wise. So I think we should start with Enyanwu as a character. She, I mean, look, everyone in this series, I'm like, y'all gonna get some hands because I don't like any of them. However, I found Enyanwu to be very fascinating because since this is our introduction to this patternist series, I wanted to know how Enyanwu is connected to Doro. Like, how do they get that connection? And also, I really want to know what Doro even was because, child, I want.
Right?
Like, what was Doro?
That and the ending of both of these books ended very similarly by giving us a glimpse of what they actually are. And that was kind of horrifying, but also fascinating. And I was like, I need more of this. So good.
Man.
Oh my God. Like that was the sci-fi linchpin that was like, oh, you really went sci-fi, you know? I freaking loved it, but we'll get to that. But going back to Enyanwu, personally, I loved Enyanwu, even though she was so flawed.
Very.
They were, all these characters were flawed, which made all of their really complex perspectives over like literal 150 years, I think is the first book, like 100 years maybe, because it goes from 17 something to like 1850s or whatever.
Something like that. It's definitely over a century for sure.
Yeah. They're very complex. And so watching Enyanwu grow as an individual by the end of the book, I wanted more of her in book 2, which is another reason I think why I enjoyed book 2 less. Because I was like, where's my Enyanwu? Bring her back. But yeah, Jenna, what about her made you feel the way you did?
Well, first off, it was, I don't know if it's just Doro's influence, but like just the way she interacted with Doro. I'm like, why are you why are you even listening to this guy? Why are you like, I don't know. I feel like she didn't question enough of Doro. And I just don't know if it's because since Doro, well, if I remember correctly from the Wild Seed, because I think we got briefly his backstory, because he's like that entity. I'm calling him an entity because he's no longer human anymore. He stopped being human 4 millennia ago.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if this is just a influence thing. It's not something that it's like told to us, but I'm just inferring from here that there is a bit of a charisma to Doro, which I can believe because that man was having a eugenics project. So like, you can't convince people to just breed with each other unless you have something of influence. So, and I think also makes sense though that Inyawo, I think, was a little bit lonely, and she did realize that Doro is powerful. And I think the biggest thing for her that convinced her to fall with Doro is that he convinced her that she can have children that will not die. Which I'm like, okay, fine. Which also, the whole thing about having children and stuff, I got tired. I'm tired.
I know.
Like, children, like why?
Literally, by book 2, I was like, we're still doing this? We're still doing the eugenics, bro. Like nothing.
That's why Doro was public enemy number 1. I'm like, this guy gotta go.
Somebody needs to put him down.
That's why I'm like, mind in my mind. I really appreciate.
Yes, I appreciate the ending. I appreciate the ending of that. I still feel my way I feel about Anyanwu at the end of that, because I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean she's gone?
Ciao.
But yeah, I was happy to see his downfall by the end of book 2. Like, oh, finally. Because at the end of book 1, okay, we're jumping around, whatever, we got spoiled. Like, okay, so at the end of book 1, I actually really appreciated the end of book 1 because of the way that Anyanwu finally asserted dominance over him. But as soon as we opened up book 2 and he was still at it 100 years later, I was like, no, he needs to go.
I'm glad Butler agreed with us though on that part.
Yes.
She knew, it was like, okay, yeah, y'all, he was waddling, that's why it was called Wild Seed, because he was waddling out here with his seed. So now, mind in my mind, guess what? His dream, which, if I remember correctly, his dream was to create a society of beings that he can join in, that he doesn't have to necessarily, that he could feed off of, but also not have them all die. Because every time Doro, because another thing too about Doro that also baffled my mind was just what he was, because apparently he was born human. It was like thousands of years ago, he was born human, but then somehow he got some sort of parasite into his body that made him go through a transition, as they call it, where they start to develop powers. And his power is just to basically be a parasitic, like I don't know, not quite a telepathic parasite, but very much in the mind of a human body, go from one human body to another. And in order to survive, he has to choose younger bodies, and he has to just do that. That's just how he survived for like thousands of years. So his dream was to basically breed humans with these sort of like crazy powers as he had, but to the point where genetically they can be, I think if I remember correctly, with like Mary, who is the protagonist of Mind in My Mind, is to be a telepath that can create this symbiotic or some sort of symbiosis, if I remember correctly, the term, of other telepaths where they're connected and they feed off each other without killing. Although for Doro, he's been doing for so long, for him it's just killing is like whatever, but he wants to be a part of a society of mutant human telepathic humans, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, he's trying to breed I think symbiote like family of people that are like him, because essentially at the core of it, I think it's about loneliness.
Yeah.
And so he is lonely, but also just because he's lonely doesn't mean that he has to necessarily be a good person or a person who respects humanity, versus Anyanwu, who is his foil, who does care about people and is a healer and a bit more nurturing.
Right.
So like she is able to have family in a way that's more meaningful because she doesn't want to participate in his eugenics thing, even though she does it at first because, like you said, she was lonely when he found her. And then quickly she learned, like, oh, this is bad. But he asserts power over him by, he asserts power over her by saying, showing that, hey, I can always find you. No matter where you go, I'll find you and I'll X you out. So don't even try to run. And so eventually she needs to find, it becomes almost like a Stockholm syndrome. I think that's how I interpreted her love for him, as like a Stockholm syndrome, where she's like, and I think it was repeated in Mind of My Mind with a couple of other characters as well, where it's too dangerous to outright hate him. It's safer to love him because of how omnipresent he is.
Yes, very much abusive, controlling relationship that has persisted. And I think that's another reason why I think this series can be very frustrating for a lot of readers, is this abusive power that Doro has. Like, it literally took like 2 books to find a way just to take this parasite down. 2 books.
Yeah, because eventually it's like what we learn about the way that what he is. I get in my head, it, like when Butler was illustrating what he actually is on a telepathic level, it felt like a little solar system, and he's like a little sun in this. I don't even know how to describe it.
I don't even know either. I just like, look, I just felt like he was some sort of alien parasite that can just be that can attract people, especially telepaths, telepathically, and just like they just circle around him.
Yeah. And it took 2 books for him to eventually create another telepath who's like a more powerful parasite to consume him, because his things eventually went too far. Who is Mary, who is the descendant of Anyanwu.
Which I do have to say, I think is kind of poetic that it was that, like, that's how Doro got taken out, was something that he created, a vision that he really wanted that happened too quickly, and it got way out of control. That's his fault. I'm like, yeah, see, that's your hubris right there, out here playing God. Which, by the way, I find it interesting because I remember the parts in Wild Seed were named. They had the timeline, but also it reminded me of parts of the Bible a little bit. And I was like, why? I found it interesting. I was like, Butler, why? Yeah, because it was like, why do I remember parts of the Bible, especially like the earlier parts of the Bible? I know this is, I don't know if it's quite like religious ties with this series, but like there is this idea of like Doro playing God, because you're creating beings. You're trying to create versions of human beings, and you have control over them, and you make sure that that they love you, but they also fear you, and actually they have to show love to you with a fearful, which I can say for some people, who are raised Christian, maybe also have some, not like guilt, but like some pain and hurt from that. It felt like that, like God is punishing humans for being themselves and stuff, even though they're the ones that created them, and enforcing them to like, hey, you got to love me or else, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I found that to be interesting in Wild Seed. But in my mind, it wasn't quite like that. At least not as blatant to me as Wild Seed. And I think, again, this is because of publishing order, that this is where it gets really weird to me. Because I'm like, I wonder what the series as a vision, as the vision of the series would have been like if this was published in chronologically and thought of. Like, I don't know what Butler was doing. Like, I don't know why. Like, I don't know. I just want to know why they were published out of order. Like, she wrote them all at the same time and they just got published out of whack, or what?
I don't know, because I honestly, for me, I feel like the writing in Wild Seed is stronger than the writing in Mind of My Mind too. So I feel like I can sense that Mind of My Mind was written first. So I don't know. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. But yeah, it is just interesting to me because I'm like, because the Wild Seed was heavily giving me Christianity, religious imagery, but then Mind of My Mind didn't. So I was like, tonally, like, I don't know, the tonal shift between these books is so fascinating to me, and it's definitely something that needs to be studied. Like, I feel like in a college course we need to study this Paradise series.
This would be the required reading, just this series.
Yes, because I'm like, there's something about it that, like, you could connect to one thing and another between the series, but also tonally the shifts, and then you can just speculate, I guess, why that is, and maybe there are articles out there. Maybe Butler was forthcoming, and I just don't know. Maybe
It'd be something for us to look into.
Yeah, it is something, because I am going to continue on with this series, and I was looking, huh?
Are you starting right away?
I mean, as soon as I can get the audiobook.
Okay, all right. Because I was like, I want to keep reading it too, but I still need a little break.
Fair. I'm too into it. Oh, hey, Leslie. Look, I'm so into it because I got the audiobook for Wild Seed through my library, but then in my mind, they only had the ebooks readily available, and since there's DRM in it, I couldn't download to my Kobo. So I was like, okay, fine, audiobook it is. So I had to go to Spotify for the audiobook of my mind. So with Clay's Arc, I'm kind of just like, well, I don't want to go back to Spotify again. I want to like borrow the audiobook from my library, and it's just months. So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be able to read it right away. I'll just have to wait.
Cool. So actually, you know what? I'm gonna piggyback off of my reason why I need a break to talk about the incest.
Yeah. We haven't gone to even the dark stuff yet. We just talked to Doro being a menace, so we haven't gone to the why he's even a menace.
Listen, this man, I wanted to puke so many times. I kind of want to puke thinking about it right now. I
don't blame you.
This man was, not only was he breeding his family members together, and many times with like no kind of a consent, doesn't exist, but also he was into minors and he was grooming. Oh God, I'm sick. And like distance of cousins didn't matter. He was like, yeah, so whatever, we'll just keep going until one of them works out, and however many it takes to get there, it's not my problem, right? He was so disgusting. And like, again, it happened so much in book one, but in book one, I felt like all of it, in the different ways that we saw it, just kept scaffolding into how much more can I hate this man? You know? So by the end of the book, I was like, I don't know that I can hate him anymore. And then by book two, I felt like I was already at peak Doro haterade, that when it just kept going, I was like, I need off of this train.
Yeah.
So that significantly detracted from my, again, enjoyment's not the word, my motivation to keep going to find out what's happening to Mary and crew.
Right. And I think in my mind, it's even more exacerbated because Mary is a more direct descendant of both Anyanwu and Doro. And like Mary was very much in the grooming and stuff. So it's even more so. On like a Wild Seed, well, Anyanwu was just like, she don't even like the whole, not just the breeding stuff, but also the incest part. She was so against it. So I think in that sense, even though you saw more of it in Wild Seed, I think it's easier to tolerate because Anyanwu was on page opposing this. Now, don't get me wrong. Mary was also opposing this whole breeding stuff too, but not as strongly than Anyanwu was, which for Anyanyu's character makes a lot of sense. So in my mind, it was even more frustrating because it's like, dang, like Mary still wanted to like, again, she was groomed. She's in this breeding experiment thing. Everything's out of her control as well, even more so than Anyanwu was. Because at least Anyanwu had some control because like Doro still wanted to keep her close. He wanted to control her, but he couldn't. But Anyanwu also still wanted to be close as well. So like those opposing powers, I think made Wild Seed quite fascinating. And also I think tolerable to get through than like Mind of My Mind, where you're like, okay, well, you're the main character is a minor, still having a relationship with Doro, and it was just a lot.
I wanted to puke constantly. There were multiple scenes in Mind of My Mind where she went to his bed, and I was like, girl, please stop. Let this man go. Oh my God. So I don't know where to go from there, but whatever. I don't know where you want us to go from there.
I mean, I guess it can go in the sense of just like maybe some side characters. I mean, I think I was more invested in the side characters of Wild Seed than Mind of My Mind. I think that's where the Mind of My Mind dropped, was the side characters and my connection with them. Because Mind of My Mind, I think we had Carl, which was the guy that Mary was forced to marry and stuff like that. And like, I didn't care for Carl.
Yeah, I didn't get about him. I was like, he could die, it's fine.
Right. But then I think Anyanwu had a husband or someone in Wild Seed.
Isaac?
Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah.
Which again, that's what I was like, Isaac. First of all, again, biblical name. So my brain was like,
yep,
biblical name. Hold up now. Like,
yep.
You can't. I don't know what Butler was doing with Wild Seed, but like she was putting the Christianity religious imagery there, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold up, because
Doro and Yanmu were very much giving like Adam and Eve type energy.
Which actually, maybe that's what it is. Actually, yeah, giving Adam and Eve, and then like Mind My Mind with Mary. With if you see Doro as God, you can see Mary maybe as like the child of God, Jesus kind of thing. I don't know, maybe, but not as
Mary had a son.
Yep, that happened too.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay. Oh yeah, and also the name Mary, even biblical ties. So many things.
Yeah.
This is why I'm invested.
Also, the name that Anyanwu takes in Mind of My Mind is Emma.
Right.
Which is like Eve, Emma. I feel like I forgot what they said it meant, but it was like great grandmother, like great ancestor, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much giving biblical.
And that's what
makes me want to finish the series. Because I mean, like, what was the point? I need to know. Okay.
I mean, even the title of the third book, Clay's Ark, Noah's Ark.
Yes.
And also, there's a character in Mind of My Mind named Clay. So my mind was like, is he connected? Like, where does Clay's Ark come in? And then Pattern Master? I'm like, first of all, Pattern Master. That's a great name to end your series called the Patternist series. Like, I need to know the vision here.
I know. It's so there's so many things here that I think still need to be unpacked. But going to side characters, like you said, I really ended up having a soft spot for Isaac eventually in the way that he cared about Anyanwu.
Right.
And I feel like he tried to protect her from Doro as much as he could.
Yes, more so than I think Carl was trying to, because honestly, Carl was he took a while to be like tolerating Mary, which even I will say with Mary's personality, she is a lot more, I won't say brash, but like she has a strong tenacity to her, which I think made it also somewhat fun to read Mind of My Mind.
Yeah, she was a very interesting character. And then also in Mind of My Mind, seeing other side characters, like as Mary is making her pattern and calling in all the other telepaths that are being drawn to her, that whole tension of them being like, well, we can't leave, but do we X her out? Do we get rid of her? But then what does that mean for us? Is Doro going to come after us for getting rid of her? What's like the power struggle that was there? That whole thing was interesting to me.
That does make, it is interesting, especially like regarding power. Like power is a major theme, I think, with this series. Not just abuse of power, but just having power in general. I mean, Doro, like such a very powerful being, and how other people react around him as well. And then just thinking how like the book, I mean, which one? I think Wild Seed started off during the time of like, the transatlantic slave trade. That's how he was getting people across the world, getting to, I think, where was the part of the, was it just like around New York or something? That's what it was.
I think it was like Virginia. It was somewhere in the central north to northern east coast, I think.
Yeah. Some around there. And I do also find it a little bit interesting with Butler and like how she like Doro's relationship to the other, like just others around him. It is giving like a slave master and having slaves and stuff like that, even though this is, again, a eugenics breeding project, but there is a lot of things regarding slavery, even in Mind of My Mind with Mary and how she started to have this her own, becoming like her own version of a parasitic relationship with these other telepaths. It is giving that like slavery mindset as well. But though she's trying to make sure that she doesn't want to like threaten to kill them, because she's like, look, I don't want to kill y'all. I don't. So let's work together so I don't be forced to kill y'all. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to be, I guess, like the more agreeable version, I guess, of Doro. Mm-hmm. And still trying to give them some form of autonomy, because she can't quite like just, I don't think she can actually even let them go, even if she wanted to, I don't think. So
yeah,
I don't know.
She didn't even know how to break the pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was just interesting to me, not gonna lie, with Butler. I was like, okay.
Yeah, there was a duality there. It was interesting to see. I remember thinking when we were watching Mary's journey, thinking like, is she going to become like Doro, or is she going to try to be a better version of him that he could never be?
Which I think that's why I think Doro, because even for Doro, he started to get jealous that he saw that Mary was being more successful in creating her own like community of people that she can be a part of. Because for Doro, he couldn't really be a part of that, because it just would not work. He can't be part of the pattern. In fact, we even saw like that's how he even like dies, is that Mary was able to absorb him and put him in the powder and just like take his essence, so that it's just left with the body,
which was really cool.
Honestly, I mean, I don't know how Butler figured out, because I was like, how? Because after I read Wild Seed, I was like, please tell me that this MFer over here can just go away.
Yeah. It was so good. I love the ending of both of these, how they mirrored each other, and seeing like I guess the coexistence of Anyanu and Doro in that like parasitic form, whatever they are, versus seeing Mary like absorb him. Those are my favorite things. I loved it so much. But yeah, jealousy I agree, is the reason why Doro was like he was jealous of his own creation, and that he wanted to be a part of it, but it was so far removed from community is so far removed of who he is as a person, it would never work.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I did want to talk about two other things. The first one I'll mention is we learn about Doro's childhood in Wild Seed. He talks about how when he was a child and he came into his powers is because his human body passed away, and then I think he came back or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And then he took over his parents' body, and then it just kind of kept going from there. Am I remember that correctly?
I think like his body was going through transition, and like his body died, but as a conscious, as his that's when he became like a parasitic conscious. And I think he jumped straight to, I think, his mother's body, if I remember correctly. And he's just like, oh shoot. So he just jumped from his mother to his father. I think he had like a sibling, and just going to a cousin, aunt, uncle. Like he was hopping around within the village, and he just got like, I think, an uncle's, like an older cousin or an uncle's body. And he left the village, and that's actually when there was an invasion that was going to raid his village anyway. So he's like, oh, okay, well then. And then the story went on from there. I do find that his childhood to be interesting, because it's not very, at least to me, it's not concrete as far as like what was happening, because it is so long ago. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't even know what the world looked like as far back as Doro's time. And I think in Mind of My Mind, I think is around Nubians. I think that's his time period.
Probably, because it might have been like, it was like 4 millennia, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but I found it interesting that even though we got his backstory and it was sad, I personally didn't feel like it made me sympathize with him at all, or that it was meant to sympathize with him. That it was just more of like, he was a victim of violence, but also violence just begets more violence. And so he made an active choice to just continue that cycle of violence.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Another thing I do want to talk about that I found really interesting in Wild Seed, and something that I really enjoyed about it, was Anyanwu's growth around gender norms.
Yes.
That was really cool to see, because she starts off very much like traditional, what has been within her culture in her village, and like gender roles, the housekeeper versus like the patriarch or whatever. And in the beginning of the book, she's very much like relationships are between men and women, but then as time goes on, and eventually she becomes 100 years later or whatever, she becomes a plantation owner, and she's actually saving slaves by bringing them to work on her plantation, but she's taking care of them and giving them like their own homes, and I think paying them and feeding them and clothing them and whatever. So it's like under the guise of this plantation, but she's not really treating them like other like a slave plantation. And she ends up meeting that white woman who she ends up falling in love with.
Yeah.
Her name. But they end up in a queer relationship. So that was interesting to see.
Yeah. I think there is something about with this series that if you read it in chronological, I think reading it in chronological order, you notice how Butler has evolved, I think, as a writer, and just her viewpoints of how she sees the world. Like to your point, like, yeah, I actually kind of forgot to even mention the fact that gender norms, sex, and like all that was a very prevalent theme in Wild Seed, but in Mind of My Mind, it's not as prevalent, which makes sense because Mind of My Mind came out before Wild Seed. So I do wonder, with the Pattern series, and especially since this actually is my first time even reading Octavia Butler. Like I've never read anything else by her. This is my first. So in my brain, I'm like, interesting. So now I'm reading the series. I can easily see how Butler evolved, even as a writer, and like what she envisioned humanity. And like especially since as we are seeing the series in chronological order, we are seeing humanity evolve. We're seeing the version, these people that Dora bred evolve as well. So I do find it interesting a little bit, especially now we're seeing also with Butler, and thematically, I feel like Butler has evolved as well, which is still interesting to me when you read Wild Seed first and then you read Mind in My Mind and you're like, okay, I feel like I have two different writers here. Well, not so different, but
it's very different. I will say Wild Seed is the only other book that I read of Butler's is Kindred, and I love Kindred. I actually feel like Kindred to me is my favorite out of the books that I've read so far. And Wild Seed felt closer to that writing style that we get in Kindred. I will also say this is just something I'm putting a pin in for myself, is that so now I've read 3 of her books. All of them have age gaps. Also, I heard that Fledgling has age gaps. So I'm like, Octavia Butler, what is it with you and age gaps? Why? Like in Kindred, it's not egregious. It's not grooming like it is here. They're consenting adults, so it's not an issue. But like, I'm like, I see that. Interesting. Choices, consistent choices are being made.
Right. I think I've read somewhere that Butler grew up. I mean, I don't know if this is accurate. I need to like really do my own personal research as well. But I think it has to do with her childhood, how she grew up. I think that's where we get the grooming, the child abuse. I think that's from her childhood. So I think she was trying to like work through it in the books that she writes. That's what I remember from what I'm seeing. I need to do my own personal research on that one. But if that's the case, it would somewhat make sense, even though I still think it's exhausting as a reader to be constantly reading, because I do want to read more of her works, but also I'm just like, do I really got to deal with like grooming and child sexual assault and pedophilia? Like, do I got to deal with all that?
I know.
I don't want to read more.
I know. And that's why it's like, I love her books, but I need breaks. So I was like, I'm sorry, y'all. I want to continue this series, but I can't do 3 months in a row. Like, give me a minute. I'll probably come back in like the spring.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I'm like grateful that Libby's like, yeah, don't worry about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vampire's a young body. That's right. Looks like a child, but I think it's actually 50 years old, which is like wild.
Yeah. It seems to be something that I'm consistently fine. I haven't heard about that in Parable of the Sower, which I also have in my TBR.
Me too. Yeah.
But yeah, but we'll find out, I guess. Well, right now it's 4 for 4. So, so noticing.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's also something to also keep in mind. Like, if one is to read all of Butler's works, keep in mind of like thematically what she's written, and also the dark matter. Like, maybe as time went on, she moves away. Because I've heard with the Xenogenesis series or Lilith's Brood that had what was it, Dawn, Adult Rights, and Imago. I think that trilogy. I've heard there isn't pedophilia, so I'm like, okay. I think that's more of her later published works. So maybe it's something that it's just over time she's found a way to work through, so she doesn't put it in her books as much. So that's what I'm hopeful for. That's my light there.
There's the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep. I will be reading more of her works, but child, I need a break too.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that though, because when I was thinking about this as a genre, I personally feel like this is a sci-fi horror. Like, and I say that about Kindred as well. Like, it's horrifying. So I feel like that's what I would stick this in that category.
I do wonder though why the Patternist series is not seen. I mean, maybe it's because like within the books, they are disgusted, they are horrified, but it's not giving. I mean, it's hard to say, but because I wonder why this series isn't in like the horror genre as well as the sci-fi genre. I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Need to reread. Dawn, nice.
Yeah, I've heard good things with that Xenogenesis series. So I'm like, okay. And at least it seems like Butler had a vision that this is going to be a series. Like the books came like a year after each other. So I'm like, okay. Consistent.
Yeah, it's prioritized as sci-fi, but it's not real. I don't really think it's characterized as horror, but to me, the events that happen are so horrifying that I'm like, this. I don't know. It wouldn't meet the traditional horror of like ghosts, and even though we could say that Doro's like an evil entity, so like whatever,
I mean, he's an alien parasite. I don't care what he's an alien parasite.
Literally. So okay, is there anything else you wanted? We have about like 10 minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted us to touch on?
Let's see. I guess it's just like like, what do you think this series is going? Like, what is Butler trying to say with the Patternist series or Seed to Harvest?
Girl, bye. I don't know. What do you think it's trying to say? Because like it could go anywhere. Like, I personally could see Pattern Master being like in the future.
I mean, I think that is actually the direction of timeline wise, because I was looking at even the synopsis of both those books. I was like, this is giving very much perfect. I just feel like there's some bit of commentary, not blatant commentary, but I think there is commentary regarding power, religion, because it's a little bit too close to like Christianity to me. That I'm like, there's something about that, especially titling with Clay's arc. I'm like, yeah, there's some religious imagery here. So I'm curious to see how that's going to continue on and stuff thematically. Family, connection, humanity, what it means to be human, what it means to build relationships with humans, especially with power, abuse, just a lot of abuse. Not gonna lie, I think abuse is just a thing. We're just a thing we're going to be seeing for even Clay's arc and Pattern Master. So I don't know. I'm seeing a bit of this vision. It's a little bit unclear to me because of the way that tonally and writing wise, it's just all over the place. But I think this is still it's an interesting series, at least for me as someone who's never read Butler before, to start with, I think.
Yeah. 100%. And now, what just came to my mind hearing you say all that too? I forget what the name of it is, but it's that, and which book in the Bible it is. Listen, I haven't read the Bible in years. But what is it when, not the apocalypse, but when people are called back to heaven and like the world is destroyed and like there's a certain number of people who are called back. Anyway, the whole like parasite thing of people connecting is giving me like the final version of humanity might become like just this group of entities, and like the rest of humanity kind of just like falls apart. Like maybe that's the ultimate goal. is to be this like interconnected, interwoven community of entities that feed off each other but have to work together to survive, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe because I think I remember correctly from the synopsis of Clay's arc, there is, I think, actual like alien parasites that come from space to Earth. And it's I saw in the synopsis there's some sort of abduction going on here. There's something.
What? Okay, well now I didn't know that.
I was reading my mind. I was like, okay, I need to know where this series is going. So I did look up the synopsis of Clay's arc, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Okay. This is why I'm like interested, because like something about this series is interesting. And then Pattern Master, I didn't look too much into the synopsis of that one. I'll wait till I read Clay's arc, but just the title of it and knowing what the pattern even is with Mind in My Mind, I'm like, oh, this is like ultimate control of humanity. Because humanity was just doomed. When I saw Doro existing and what he is, I'm like, oh, humanity is over. Humanity, you gone. Goodbye, humans.
We're screwed.
Very much.
Okay, you know what? I might open up a channel in the Discord of just like a Patternist series buddy read channel for those of us who do continue, since I don't think we're going to be continuing it as a book club pick, but as a side buddy read, we can just talk in there and be like, the world is ending.
Which I do find it interesting because like people look at like the Earthsea series, the Parable of the Soul or Parable of the Talents. It's like, oh, Butler was prophetic, even though really I think based on people, I mean, again, I haven't read it yet. That's a series I will tackle. But based on what I heard from other people who've read it, it's like, well, she's not being prophetic. She's just noticing that humanity has a pattern. Yes. Which I think with the Pattern Master series, it's going to be a lot about humanity and the evolution of humanity and how it's just a repeated cycle. It's just that's just what I'm assuming. But I'm connecting some dots here. I think I'm connecting things. I don't know if I'm really connecting things, but I'm seeing something.
It's like we have that wall with the lines and we're like, okay, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here.
No, seriously, that's me with series. Every time I read a series, I'm like, okay, why is this series here? Why do we have this? Why is it connected to here? How about this and that? And especially since this series in of itself is, especially publication orders out of whack, I need the actual board now. I'm like, okay, you here. You
might actually have to make one for a video and be like, okay, so.
Actually, I think I will actually make a video about this series when I finish it, because I know there are people out there who are confused with this series. Yes. I'm gonna do my best.
It says I have Clay's arc on my shelf. Probably won't read it till next year. Okay, so Leslie, you read these two, and tell us if you agree or what your thoughts are. Or how long of a break did you take?
Key question: how long spacing in between the books?
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't think I have anything else to add. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Let's see. Do I have anything? I mean, I don't have anything besides like I'm going to continue on the series. I'm curious to see what the finished product with this series is, and I think I'll really be able to dive into what Butler's trying to say. I mean, I'll try, and then I have to figure out what other books I'm going to read from her next. I do own a copy of Kindred on my shelf, but I don't know if Kindred will give me the next book I want to read, because like I am curious about Fledgling, because it is indeed a vampire story. I'm here for vampire stories. But I also really want to read Parable of the Sower and the Talents. And then also I'm curious about the Xenogenesis series. Like that series is very interesting to me. And I feel like I could compare that series to the Patternist series, I feel like. Okay. So that's why I'm like, I want to connect all the things. I want to connect Butler's works together.
Yeah. Well, Kindred is a good standalone. So if you need a break from series, I would recommend it. Leslie says, oh no, I haven't read them yet. Just pop them up. I've read Lilith's Brood trilogy. That was really good. Shannon says, I think my next two reads will be Dawn and Lilith's Brood. I just read the synopsis. And Kindred is it. That's why I was saying I feel like these are all horror. Because I was just screaming and crying through all of Kindred. So I remember I was reading Kindred. This one didn't make me cry. This made me feel a lot of things, but it didn't make me cry. But Kindred, I remember being on the last couple pages, sitting on my couch, sobbing into my book. And my partner was like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay.
No.
So, okay. So I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Thank you to Nkechi for joining me today. And you know what? Maybe whenever we continue this, maybe we'll do a part 2 follow up. Where did this go? Kind of thing. Because I think it might just be me and you continuing the series eventually.
Probably.
Yeah. But it was good. I had a great time.
Me too,
Yay.
actually. Yeah, this was fun.
Thanks, Leslie. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I have reading sprints in a little bit because I got some teacher work to do. I say reading sprints, productivity sprints, whatever. So, you know, the usual Sunday. Yeah. Sunday shenanigans. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. See you later. Bye.